Welcome to the fourth edition of the Always On Media Group podcast, our hockey podcast that features coaches within the Massachusetts high school hockey circles and some of our business partners, friends, and supporters. We look forward to an exciting episode this week, and we've got some good friends of My Hockey Live and Always On Media Group. And along with Paul McNamara and Colin Barkan, my name is David Snow. I'm going to be throwing it to Paul McNamara in a second to get us underway with our guests today. The first of which is Dan Najarian, the coach of Duxbury girls hockey, a friend to many. I got the opportunity to watch him conduct a practice last week. He didn't know I was spying, but if everyone on his team had the enthusiasm and energy that he brings to a practice, and I think he does, it rubs off because obviously they've had great success. So I look forward to that conversation. Before we get started, just wanted to let you know, if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of this podcast or to get involved with My Hockey Live and the Always On Media Group, you can contact me, David Snow, dsnow, S-N-O-W, at alwaysonmediagroup.com. With the business portion out of the way, I'm going to throw it to my good friend Paul McNamara. And Paul, go get them.
Thanks very much, Snowy. Great introduction of the program and of Coach Nudge. And Coach, it's great to have you with us. We looked at the full season and we said, we're not going to have you on till your team is sitting atop all the standings. And you do check in at number one in the power ratings now, and you've been knocking on that door all season long. And congratulations on the season so far. I mean, the easiest question to start off with is, how do you feel about this year's team at this point in the season?
A very unique team. First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. But a very unique team this year in that I have 10 freshmen. I lost 9 seniors last year, 2 100-point scorers from a team that had 2 state titles in 23 and 24. So I didn't really know what I was going to have. And unlike some of the co-ops and some of the other towns, on the girls' side, I don't have the luxury of being able to play 7th and 8th graders. So when my freshmen come in, they are true freshmen. So at the 5-game mark, the 6-game mark, the 7-game mark, that's all the experience that these kids had. So I think for the first 4 or 5 games, 6 games, and we were trying to figure out what we had with these freshmen. One's my starting goalie. I think she was trying to figure out the pace of play and the responsibilities of being a starting goalie on what we like to, a high performing team. So if you had asked that question 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I would have said, I don't know what I have. I think we're really starting to figure it out now. And I'm excited to see what the next 5 or 6 regular season games bring and then into the tournament.
Well, that's a good analysis. And the old expression that this time of the season, nobody's a freshman anymore. And certainly with the schedule you put together, those kids, you mentioned your goalie not knowing the pace. That's baptism of fire for some of those kids. I mean, you started off, the non-league schedule is unbelievable. The tournament you put together around Christmas time, the 10E Cup there's 8 teams there, and I think 6 of them would be in the top 10 in the state right now. And that's great competition for all the teams, but certainly for your kids being the young kids. They get to know what high school hockey is really all about right away.
Yeah, and the Tenny Cup is a great event, and the luxury we have there is it's in our own building, so they're not burdened. These young kids weren't burdened with the travel up and down the highway. They got to do it in their own backyard, and it's a little bit easier from a transition standpoint. But yeah, we try to make that tournament as best we can. We get all the top D1 schools, and we're trying to get the D2 schools and model it almost after the Buddy Ferreira down in Falmouth, or the Ed Burns, which is going on now on the boys' side. We do want it to be the marquee event and hope we can get there. But it is these kids have played 16, 17 games, but it is different from a kid at Archie's or some of these other schools that have played 40 or 50 games at freshmen. So there's still some freshman bumps that we have to work through. And I have an incredible leadership team. Addie Harrington is fast becoming one of the best leaders we've ever had, as well as one of the best players Duxbury's ever seen. So it's a luxury to have her kind of bridging the gap between the old and the new.
Well, I was just going to bring up Addie, who crossed the century mark in points recently and is not stopping. I mean, and that was all over the news, and a great piece on I think Channel 4 that featured Addie, but it also featured her coach. And you came off great in that, Nudge. It was and you didn't have to say all the right things because it's self-evident, but it showed how the coaches feel about that young lady who came up as a freshman, learned from the senior leadership and all every year. And it's kind of like the leadership roles get passed down on your team, and it kind of reflects on the community and how Duxbury feels about all this sport, but particularly girls hockey.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I'd like to ask Paul more offline. We don't. There's not, in my opinion, there's not enough leadership training for these kids coming up, and you're hoping that they pick up the good and don't pick up the bad. Paul's been around a long time, and I'm getting to that stage of my career where you have some bad leaders, and it can really affect a locker room. So, we try to speak to our leaders at the beginning of the season and say, hey, these are the good, these are the bad. And this is, again, a unique situation in Duxbury where we had 10 freshmen. So if you think back to what they've watched Addie do over the last 4 years, whether it's winning 2 state titles, whether it's getting to 100 points, she's somewhat iconic to these kids who were, in the 6th and 7th grade watching her play. And now they're on the same team, and 2 of them are on the same line. So, and she's just done an amazing job of bringing them into the family. And not just her, my other captains too, Liv Gleason and Alana Gallagher, as well as the upperclassmen, the juniors. But it's sort of that culture that you try to build. But, if you get somebody that's not a great leader, you can run into some trouble. And I've been lucky along the way to have some of the best.
Well, also, you've been able to keep the kids at home for the most part, which the growth of girls hockey has been unbelievable. And you've seen it, certainly Moorsey's seen it down on the Cape as well. And more, the kids that come in and are hotshot freshmen are looking at greener pastures, so to speak, and don't stay in the program for 2 years, never mind 4 years. So I think you've been blessed with that. And I think part of that is the culture and being able to compete for state titles. The kids see that's important.
Yeah, and they see how many fans are showing up at a game. And I had a daughter that went through prep hockey, and she played at Buckingham, Brown and Nichols, and she would go and play the biggest game of the year, whether it was against Nobles or whoever it was against, and it would just be parents in the stands. You come down to a bog on a Saturday night, or you go down to the Falmouth ice rink on a Saturday night, and the place is packed, the community's all there, and that means something. I had last year, I had some of my top players that went on to play at other places, whether it was Maddie Greenwood, Kylie Erickson, Molly Duvall. They all came back to every single kid said the most fun they ever had playing hockey was playing at Duxbury High School. And we had them speak to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and that resonated with those kids, and they want to come and play. The hurdle that I have and will have going forward is as the girls' game gets much younger and younger. I mean, you see the Emma Doucettes of the world that were playing at St. Mary's in the 6th grade. Our NDA and Archie's have 7th and 8th graders. My concern is that Duxbury, Hingham, Milton, that doesn't allow that to happen, starts losing kids to those private schools because they can go play at Archie's in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then they can move on and matriculate to the Nobles and Green Isle, the Thayer Academies, the Lawrence Academies, and now they get 6 years of varsity hockey. So I do think that that's an issue that has to be looked at from the MIAA, is how do we level the playing field so that everybody, if it's good for the Goose to get the 7th and 8th graders playing, it has to be good for the Hinghams and the Duxburys and everybody else to have that same opportunity to keep those kids in town, because I do think that's going to be important, especially as we move forward towards this Super 8, if that does happen.
Yeah, and it's almost like in a lot of issues out there in Franklin that there are things that are the sport specific that could be dealt with, and that's certainly one of them in girls hockey. And you bring up the Super 8. I think that's sport specific to hockey. I like the idea. I think for girls it would be phenomenal because there's Division II teams that could certainly be in Division I. There's less of a distinction between the two divisions in girls hockey, I think, especially at the top end.
Well, I agree with that, but I would make the argument on the boys' side, you're seeing it as well. I mean, look at the Ed Burns, right? You got Tewksbury took down Arlington. You got Canton that went into Hingham and beat them 5-0. So I think that the line between D1 and D2 on the boys' side is starting to blur a little bit. But along with going to the Super 8, the MIAA is also, or the tournament committee is also talking about lessening the margin of victory to 2, which I think is great because I think it brings back some of the strategic coaching decisions that we have to make at the end of games, right? So I love that. But the flip side of that is it's going to put even more emphasis on strength of schedule. And strength of schedule is really going to be the driver for who ends up in that Super 8, because the margin, the margin of victory, there won't be as much variance between someone that's a 1.5 and a 1.7 if you're capped at 2. Now on the girls' side, sometimes you have people that are at 2.5, 2.6. That's a big advantage. So all of that comes into play as they think about this Super 8 stuff. But I got to tell you, I mean, Paul Moore probably knows better than I, but I watched that Canton boys team. I've seen them play twice. I'm going up with Mike Flaherty. I'm going up with Mike Flaherty on Sunday to watch Duxbury play Canton because I want to see it because they're phenomenal.
Yeah, well, we had Duxbury and Arlington, and Duxbury can skate with anybody in the state, regardless of division. And Canton is built around a lot of size and a lot of mobility, and they've got some veterans there and terrific coaching. I mean, saying terrific coaching is redundant because Massachusetts is blessed with so many good coaches. And you're right, Duxbury and Canton would be right there, and they'd be in the Super 8 this year by the numbers. So, and you guys would be too, of course. But, just final question, Nudge. If everything's going right for you, first round of the tournament, what do we see from the Duxbury girls on the ice? What style? What do you expect from the girls as the competition gets closer, as the pyramid gets closer to the top?
Yeah, sure. So we talk about doing 3 things: playing hard, playing fast, and playing smart. And I think if we're doing those 3 things, we'll be successful. And that's sort of our mantra. And it's a saying that we say every time we leave the locker room: play hard, play fast, play smart. And if you do those 3 things, and there's a myriad of ways that you can do that, right? Whether it's winning puck races, being on the defensive side of the puck, all of those little things, making sure you don't, situational hockey at the end of periods, at the end of games, 5-on-4s, all that stuff to make sure you're playing smart. But if we live by that mantra of playing hard, playing fast, and playing smart, I think we'll be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, and if you start that day one, it becomes part of them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It gets engraved, right?
Well, Dan
Najarian, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and obviously good luck to the Duxbury Dragons as you move forward, and we'll see you around the rinks. I'll throw it back to Joey.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Dan, thank you again, and wish you the best of luck down on St. George Street, and have a good rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
So a tough act to follow, Dan Najarian from Duxbury Girls Hockey, and we're going to move along to somebody who can step right in, never shy, well known to Paul and to Mark Igo here at My Hockey Live, the president of the Mass State High School Coaches Association and the head coach at Falmouth boys hockey, legendary coach, and we're really glad to have you with us today. Paul Moore, have your say here with Paul McNamara.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, welcome in. And, as Snowy said, you wear a lot of hats around the Cape and around the state, Moorsey. And, we'd love to give you a little platform here to pump up your boys team this year, because I think for some people you came out of not obscurity, but people were saying, oh, okay, Falmouth is, again, they're going to be competitive, but a 500 team. And some people were saying that. And all of a sudden, here you are knocking on the door of, we just mentioned Duxbury and Canton in the previous chat with Dan Najarian on the boys' side. And, after those 2, you guys are right there. You've been number 3 and number 4 in the power rankings all year long. You're number 4 now, but percentage points out of number 3. And that's got to be so rewarding to you and so inspirational to say to the kids, let's keep it going.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've been healthy this year. That's a big thing. All coaches this time of year worry about the flu going through the room and all that other stuff. But I was listening to the Nudge talk, and culture and core values and the things that we try to reinforce all the time that are so important to your locker room. It's funny how when the buy-in's there, other special things start happening on the ice, and we got great leadership. And and I've had timely goaltending because you have to have good goaltending at times. And the culture that they've created, we do this core value thing, and we do it every year. The kids set their core values, and it's kind of a standard that they want to hold themselves to during the year. And it's great because when the leadership's good and the room is good, we don't have to get involved.
Yeah, it makes your job a little easier.
It does. The kids take care of the room, and you can feel it. It's a vibe, and it might sound crazy. Nuts could probably understand the value in that. You can't put a price tag on. And then when things get tough and things get hard, because it's hard, we play a tough schedule, and I think we benefit from that. Not just talking about Canton. At the time, we played them early. We played CM first, then we played Canton, and Canton at the time was the best team we played. No disrespect to CM, because CM, what they do is they just keep getting better and better from December to March. But
Right.
yeah, Canton is, and Duxbury are definitely the what we're looking at, and every day we try to get better to get to that level.
When did you realize, how many games in, that this year could be not a turnaround, but a really special year for this group?
Leadership was one thing, but our compete level and our team speed, we have a little more depth than usual. I play 3 lines. I can rely on my third line. They give me good minutes. So when that stuff happens, my back end, I got 3 seniors back there that have been playing for 3 years. So they can hide a lot of mistakes. They can help you out. Our transition game's a lot better when you play with tempo and pace. That's what we've been doing. It's been really, the 45 minutes that all coaches preach. Sometimes we slip off that, but for the most part, the compete level is there for 45 minutes. Because in high school hockey, any given night, anything can happen. We see it every weekend happen. And the compete level is definitely something we really, really hound on.
I think, just to vary a little bit from just your team, seems like boys hockey on the Cape has taken a step forward the last few years. I mean, Barnstable's had a good program, some years down, but some years up. I mean, I wouldn't want to be facing their goalie right now. And
Yes.
And Nauset has developed into a great program as well. That's a healthy issue when you got local competition that you're going to be facing, and bragging rights down there.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it from 30,000 feet, when you look at high school hockey, say what you want. Hey, everybody's up against it, whether it's prep schools, academies, whatever you're fighting for. Retention, like Nudge has retention.
Right.
We have retention, and our kids are staying, and I think there's a lot of reasons for it, and one of them is the community, and who we get to play in front of, and the culture that we create. That matters. On the Cape, in high school hockey alone, Logan Poole and Colin Ward from Nauset last year. Those kids are playing in the NAW. They went from high school hockey to the NAW. That doesn't happen. And so we had some great hockey players down here, but I think they're still sprinkled throughout the state. And I think hockey and high school hockey is in great shape. What are we comparing it to, and what's the litmus test? It doesn't really matter. When you look at the teams, and you mentioned the Cape. I mean, I think Sandwich is up there in Division 4. Martha's Vineyard's pushing it. Nauset's #1 in Division 3. I think if you did a Super 8, I don't know, Nauset would probably be in the top 10, power ranking wise.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good things going on. I mean, it's all about opportunity, and for us and all these Cape teams, I think it's all about your town programs, the youth programs. They have to be strong. If they're not, you have a problem.
Yeah, I was going to allude to that too. Your community. I mean, we talked about it with Dan and Duxbury, but Falmouth is not. It's not far behind. It's on a par with both boys and girls programs. Yeah,
it's really special thing that we have, and I know a lot of communities have it. We do a lot of things though to make it happen. We do charity games. We do the Tommy's Place game was phenomenal. It was a charity game for a home for childhood cancer, and we're just, the connection to the community is so important. We go into the schools. We do everything we can to set a good example, but also promote our product. And it starts at the youth level. All our youth hockey programs, they skate between periods. We just try to create that culture and make kids want to play for Falmouth High School.
That's awesome. a tip of the hat for that. And part of your community too is every year hosting the Buddy Forever event, school vacation week, the Saturday, Sunday, and then the following Wednesday, when 8 teams get together, 4 publics and 4 Catholics. And that tournament has been a staple. And I mean, there's no Super 8 right now, but there were years, year in, year out, that the semifinals and the finals meant a lot in qualifying for the Super 8 or getting noticed. It was a committee deal, but that had a lot to do with getting into the Super 8 before.
For the last 3 years before the power rankings came out, Arlington Catholic needed to win one game down at the Classic to get into the tournament. That's how, and sometimes they didn't make it, and that was always tough. But yeah, the Classic, this is our 30th year. And it's very few teams. Obviously, Austin Prep had to bail out, but it's been the same teams. Waltham was in it one time, Barnstable was in it, but the last few years it's been in the same core group. Really competitive. It's a special tournament in Buddy's name, and we take a lot of pride in running that. And it's the competition is really, really good.
Yeah, the competition's phenomenal. This year, I think it's even picked up a step. I mean,
It's going to be interesting on the other side, because if it happened today, the seedings come out Friday. If it happened today, it'd be Arlington Catholic, Archie's, BC High, and Fian. And right now, BC High and Archie's are 1/100 of a 10th of a point. Who knows what's going to happen tonight?
Yeah, how great is
that close?
I mean, I think that's phenomenal for a tournament field to be that close. And even on the public side, things are happening every day, and the tournament going on now, Ed Burns has affected that a little bit too. So you guys are right there. So it might be the best tournament ever, the most competitive. Yeah,
the Classic. What we did, which you'll remember, Buddy had this thing all these years, right? The very first day of the tournament, a public played a Catholic. That's how he wanted it. Right. And so when it came to what was happening, and it happened with us too, like a few years ago, we made the finals. And the 2 times we made the finals, we lost by like 8 goals.
Yeah.
And so we thought it was important to make sure that the last day of the Buddy, the 2 best teams were there. And that's why we do a power seeding, as you know, for the first round. Catholics 1 through 4, publics 1 through 4. And we have at it. And that's worked out really well, because, as you know, the games have been really good, especially the final games. And so that's what we want.
Yeah, well, it's competitive as all get out, and it's fitting. It leads up right into the tournament, so it's really important. Sure. So for just a quick minute, Morsey, tell us about what's going on with the Coaches Association and relationships with the relations with the MIAA and how the group has fared this year in terms of membership, et cetera.
So, well, the membership is great. I think they're real motivated. A lot of really great coaches we have. So we have Mike Flaherty as our rep, and Mike, he's been a game changer, because he's in the room now with the hockey committee and giving feedback and suggestions and just being part of that group. And he's got the right personality, he's got the right attitude, and it's really made our relationship with the MIA a lot better. Instead of us sitting back always complaining about what we don't like, we've been part of solutions. And as you know, we've got the margin of victory and the Super 8. I'll start with the Super 8. The Super 8, high school hockey needs the Super 8. And what I explained to a couple hundred programs, where 90% of them, it doesn't matter to them, but it should, because it elevates our game, it elevates our sport. It's good for high school hockey, whether you're part of it or not. And also, the other side of that is, and I'll use my program as an example, they come back with a Super 8, I'll go back to Division I. It changes a lot of things, and I think some other teams will consider the same thing. And it's not just about my program, but I saw for what it was. I can't compete at that level. Not with all those teams there. It's just, I don't want to say it's unfair. It's just not a level playing field. It's a very, very hard format when you have that format. Because a couple of years in a row, we took Well, we had a really good team 4 years ago, and we drew Austin Prep in the first round. And we gave them a good game. It was like 4-1, but we could have played them 10 times. We'd have never beaten. And that's okay. It's not always about winning, but it's about having a chance to compete. And I think it levels the playing field in a lot of different areas. And that's really what it's all about. The margin of victory, we found that, and I'll plead guilty. I'd be interesting to see if Nudge is still on, but you know, I coach the algorithm in my head sometimes. You know, when the game's 4-1, I'm not emptying my bench. I should be emptying my bench, but I'm not because of the 3-goal margin. That's ridiculous. And if I'm losing 2-1, I don't want to lose. If I'm losing 3-1, I don't want to lose 4-1.
Just keep it going. Yeah.
Am I overthinking it? Is it great? But what I found was a lot of these coaches were thinking or doing the same thing. And I should be emptying my bench when the game's 3-1 with 2 minutes to go in the game. I should be emptying my bench and playing other kids that typically don't have a chance to play. And right, wrong, or different, I do that, and I hate it. And the 3-2, is that going to be I think it's going to make a difference. And Nudge had a good point with how it's going to be weighted with the power rankings. And I quite frankly, I think the strength of schedule should be weighted higher than goals for. So, it's and again, Mike Flaherty's been great. And the relationship we have with the MIAA, as you know, they voted to take it to the tournament management committee. The vote was real strong to get the Super 8 and the margin of victory down. So we'll see what happens with the tournament management committee. I don't know when they meet, probably in the spring sometime.
Yeah.
But Nudge, do you feel yourself coaching the algorithm at all?
I do. I see it and hear it all the time, and I watch it, because now my son's playing for Duxbury High School, and anecdotally they were playing Silver Lake. Silver Lake's down 2-1, 15 seconds left, offensive zone face-off, and Foley doesn't pull his goalie. And the two Silver Lake parents are standing next to me screaming, and I had to explain to him, no, he's kind of doing the right thing because of the position the MIAA put us in. And when they heard that, they were like, oh, that makes sense. It doesn't from a hockey standpoint because, Paul, you want to win, I want to win. We want to pull that goalie, get that goal with 15 seconds left, send it to overtime and win, right? Like that's the goal. And that's what we should be teaching these kids. And but yeah, I see it all the time. I see it all. I mean, I saw it with Mike Flaherty the other night in Quincy. They're up 4-1. They score late, and team plays great, and Flats comes off the ice. He's pissed because they scored at the buzzer to make it 4-2, and he lost that point for the margin of victory. So I see it all the time.
Right.
It's like it's not the sport,
No. Yeah. And they had a lot of problems with basketball, especially basketball. And basketball brought their margin of victory down. Baseball brought theirs down. So we hope that, I'd like to see no margin of victory. I know the NCAA algorithm doesn't have margin of victory in it. So, but they're dead set on that margin of victory. So,
ironically, if they take the margin of victory out or make it minimal, you are going to schedule. You're going to schedule around that and say strength of schedule is important, like you brought up, Morsey, and we got to win the game.
Right. Yep. Sure. So that sounds positive on the tournament management committee side. We're excited about that.
Well, Morsey, we've taken up a lot of your time. I want to thank you and Nudge. Nudge, you could get on and comment on anything. You did color with us on a game, and you're welcome back. But Morsey, thank you very much. Continued great work with your Clippers team and as the head of the Coaches Association. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. And thank you for all you do for high school hockey. You guys have been a great platform for everybody, and we really appreciate everything you do.
Well said. Thank you, Paul. Always good to connect with you, and particularly from your platform with the Mass State High School Coaches Association. So good to get a little information there. And as we talked about throughout, hockey is a community. And as we move to our next guest, it's part of our community here at Always On Media Group and My Hockey Live to bring on Gary Wright. And Gary is got an interesting background as a hockey player, a hockey coach. He's a friend of My Hockey Live. He is a business partner of My Hockey Live and the Always On Media Group. So we're thrilled to have him. And I know that Paul McNamara will be talking to you a little bit about your book and your work as an author. So we're thrilled to have you with us, and thanks for standing by. It's been a fun morning, and we look forward to engaging with you now too. Go get him, Paul.
Gary, welcome. Great to have you with us, and I hope you've when you're starting to think about writing your second book, you've got some seeds to grow with. After talking to those two guys, they're the epitome of coaches in the MIAA and public and Catholic school hockey, and those guys spend a lot of time. They're dedicated, and we're blessed to have them on our side in terms of supporting us and also available to comment anytime. So I'm glad you got to meet those guys on this as well.
No, it's funny. It's been like a trip down memory lane, naming all these schools around Massachusetts. And after living down there for 30 years myself, and I think I couldn't get to many places in Massachusetts right now without a map, but I'll bet you 30 rinks I could get to without a map.
Well, obviously, longtime coach at AIC. For those that don't know, Gary played at the University of Vermont and then got into coaching eventually after growing up as an outdoor rink guy at Proctor Academy, where his family was involved in teaching and administration. And I got to meet Gary a couple of years ago, back when he was in college and I was just out of college. And because Gary skated with my brother was a goalie on his UVM teams. And you found your calling coaching, and timing's really important in life. And you got to a program that had been up and down. It had some superstars as a Division II program, went to Division III, and eventually ended up in Division I with Atlantic Hockey. And that, I think that's just the first step in 100 here that got you going in your career, and also eventually led to you putting everything down on paper and putting together a terrific read with Striding Rough Ice.
No, thanks. It was, you're talking a little bit about my background, and my dad was my coach at Proctor as well. And I also had my mother in French class. I didn't get much past bonjour, but it wasn't her fault. But I did a little bit better on the ice with my father. But it was a great upbringing, and I guess I was kind of a faculty brat and certainly a rabid rink rat. And as one of you mentioned, it was the end of the outdoor ice era that I played at Proctor, and it was a great experience. A great place to grow up. And really, as a really young kid, I sort of decided that I wanted to hopefully make a career in hockey, and I was fortunate to be able to do that.
Well, what brought you to AIC, and what hurdles did you have to go through the first few years?
Well, when I graduated from UVM, where I was a mediocre player, I started at Rice High School, which is a Catholic school in Burlington. 1 year out of college. So that was a great opportunity at a very young age to be a head coach. And then a couple of years, Jim Cross, my coach at UVM, had, I was sort of a fourth liner, and sometimes how you are when you're a player, you're not sure if the coach doesn't like you if you're not playing, which sometimes is a little absurd. But at any rate, I guess he always thought I was potentially coaching material, so he really encouraged me to apply to Rice. And then after 3 years at Rice, he encouraged me to apply up at the University of Maine, where Jack Semler, a former player at UVM, who was at Princeton at that time, who was a really good friend of Cross, even after Jack played for him. And I had the opportunity to go to the University of Maine. So I was up there for 5 years. I wasn't sure if I wanted to leave Burlington. I was involved in the YMCA there and coaching at Rice. So the coaching was a great situation. I was able to do the coaching, but also have another job. And so I did 5 years at the University of Maine as an assistant. And then, I wanted to get into coaching, and Jack Semler got out of coaching at that time. So I applied around, and the AIC job was open, and I didn't have a lot of, I needed to apply to a place that didn't have a lot of competition. And it was a part-time position at that time. And so that's where I started. I started there as if you can believe it or not, the housing director and the hockey coach for 5 years, or for the first couple of years anyhow, before they transitioned to fully a full-time position.
Well, we talk about wearing a lot of hats, and you do what has to be done, right?
Yeah.
And one thing away from the hockey itself that I found really important throughout the book was how you related to other people in the administration, how you were able to talk your way into hiring assistant coaches, and how important it is to, I tell my kids never burn a bridge, but in hockey, if you burn a bridge, everybody knows about it. And you took that to the lower level at AIC, especially where you made friends with assistant assistant ADs, but people in the administration as well, to better your team and your way of working around hurdles.
Yeah, we're able to do a lot without maybe a whole lot. I think that when I wrote the book, and one of the real focuses in it, I think, is all the people that touch my life along the way, whether it's players or coaches or administrators or officials or whatever. And I think the other reason is I talk a lot about my high school coaching as well, but also to celebrate the game of college hockey. I don't think there's as much been written about that as other things. But I think those relationships that I fostered all the way through, just the people in the game, and in many respects, just fans and administrators, all kinds of people that are involved with the game. And my idea of writing it was to not just, it's not just, obviously I think it has some value for coaches, but it's not a how-to play hockey book. So I think I think it can be interesting to all sectors. And certainly, my colleagues in the game and the people at my former teammates, how we sort of have forever teammates, all of us. And it's a special sport, and there's special people involved with it. And I think the book in part was, a celebration of that too.
Well, you also had a lot of success on the ice and fighting an uphill battle at times. As you kind of referred to it, I know you didn't want to come out and say it, but, AIC was a tough place to recruit to. And, you weren't always the first on a kid or the 10th on a kid, and you were able to build teams around what you had. And I think that's a facet of coaching that's underrated too. Good coaches know that every year you don't have 100-goal scorer, and you got to build a team.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big part of it as well. And of course, one of my former players, and then he worked with me as an assistant, Eric Lang, really took the program to a whole different level, after I got out of there. But yeah, I think those aspects are very important as well, and trying to do something without a whole lot. It was funny because when I was the housing director, my love was really with the sport. And if there was a sign on the door that said hockey, housing and hockey, I think I probably would have reversed the order of that sign in terms of my own priorities. And I also, as I inferred earlier, it was really interesting because we did so much, in Eastern Mass at that time. In fact, I had an assistant Larry O'Donnell, who's now the director of hockey for Warrior. And I remember back in the day then, he used to rate the snack bars and rinks, like Framingham had, whatever it was. And I think the Concord Arena in New Hampshire had chocolate pucks. And so those were very interesting times as well, just getting out on the road and recruiting. And sometimes on Saturdays, we would try to, plan to watch 3 or 4 parts of 3 or 4 different games.
Yeah, it's what you had to do. And, you were recruiting those kids. They weren't recruiting you at times, but it's so worthwhile it's an easy read. The names you've come across, the relationships you've built are phenomenal, and everybody can relate to it, even if they don't know you personally, because your story touches upon a lot of what guys go through coaching, not just at the collegiate level, but at the high school level and prep school level. And that's why I promote your book. I'm not your biggest promoter that you're going to pay me to do it, but every time I see somebody, like when we give away a few copies to different coaches, and one coach even said to me, "I'm supposed to read a book?" And I said, "Yeah, it's pretty easy read, and you'll relate to so much of it." So we continue to make more publicity for you, we hope, and love to have you on again to talk about it, and keep in touch. And obviously, whenever you can get down to this other New England state at times, let us know you're coming, and we'll watch a game together. We'll have you on.
This has been from my perspective, a really home run getting involved with you guys. And it's sort of all hockey, and it's grassroots hockey. And it's, Massachusetts is obviously one of the predominant hockey states in the country. And so I think it's a really good fit in a lot of ways. And I appreciate everything you guys do. And I'm proud to be involved with you.
Riding rough ice, and you can think into that title, because that touches upon many subjects too. But congratulations on the book, Gary, and continued success. And we want to keep in touch on a regular basis.
Thank you.
So we want to thank Gary Wright for his time with us today. Obviously, very interesting guy, multifaceted, and we look forward to having him on in the future to dive in a little bit deeper into all of the things that he's done throughout his illustrious career. And last but certainly not least today, we mention a hockey community, and certainly part of that is media. And we're fortunate today to have with us Jack Murray from the Boston Herald, an organization that is deeply enriched in covering high school athletics, particularly high school hockey. They do a fantastic job. And we thought it was time to bring in the folks that are out there, pen and paper and laptops in hand. So Jack, Paul will go easy on you, and Paul, go get him.
Well, Jack, welcome to the podcast. And first of all, congratulations on your promotion at the Herald. It, I think, was announced in August. Stepping into big shoes. Danny V decided to lighten his responsibilities and turn the keys over to you in the office. And congrats, and you've done a great job getting off on the right foot. You've got a great crew over there, and we see you in rinks and your guys in rinks throughout the winter and throughout the fall and other sports. But congrats and continued success at the Herald, but it's great to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, first of all, happy to be here. Always love my time here with My Hockey Live, Be Big Live, always on. Been one of my favorite things since post-grad, just, working with you guys. And yeah, I have a great staff at the Herald. Danny took a chance on me years ago as a freelancer, kind of gave me my first footing in the industry, and then obviously left such an amazing mark. And what I always tell people is he also left our section in such a great spot where I was able to just retain pretty much all of our freelancers and just kind of go with the standard he set, which just made the transition a lot easier. And yeah, we have done great work this year. Obviously had a really strong fall. I felt like there's things that was a learning process as well. And then I feel like we've transitioned that into the winter, and we've had a really strong winter. Lots of coverage, lots of people coming in, getting opportunities. We've always take on new people, and yeah, it's been a blast. Just been finishing up the fall all scholastics the last couple of weeks, and now getting all set for the winter ones coming up soon, and the winter tournament, just all the exciting times ahead in high school sports.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. It's it's almost a full-time job just keeping up with all the sports as a fan. Or as a coach or a parent or whatever, but you guys do a great job. The Globe has beefed things up over there too, and it's great. You guys work not with each other, but off each other, and everybody knows everybody in the field. And it's great having you guys around and seeing you in the rinks, as we said. And as our focus is hockey, we want to talk a little bit about this season, or a lot about this season, obviously, on both the girls and boys side. First of all, girls hockey has exploded in my opinion, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, but really the last couple of years. And it's gotten more notice in the papers. It's gotten more notice online. And the girls' game is blessed with so many good coaches and so many good programs. And you've been following that even before your promotion. You did a lot on the girls' hockey side of things, and we think it's in great shape.
Oh, totally, totally. The girls' game has just like I just think of when I was a player, I felt like it was huge and it was getting bigger. And then now as a media member, I look at it and it is just massive. And I can just say from analytics perspective and from a Twitter perspective, the girls' game really hits for us. Fans are so passionate, and I think it's more than just like both have outside interests, the boys and the girls side, but I think the alums are a huge impact on the girls side. They want to keep up with their teams, like I would say even more. They're so invested in what's happening, and I feel like I've had so many players I've covered like follow me on social media to see how their teams are doing, which is always kind of fun to see. And I feel like they want to put so much back into it, maybe even more so than the boys at times, where the girls like know their investment and they know what they put forth in helping the game grow and helping it become as big as it is. They need to like keep that momentum going and keep these next generation knowing how special it is what they do. And we feel it on our side. And I'm always analyzing, like trying to balance out the boys and the girls, and just trying to make sure we're doing all the coverage. And it's not hard to do because there's just so many great games. And, you know, when there's great tournaments like the Tenny Cup that was put up or that Hingham Showcase last year, from a media perspective, it's like, oh my goodness, we get all these different teams that are at the top of their rankings playing each other in one rink. We can do so many games at once and do it all. And that's something that the girls and the boys sides both do really well. I think probably in hockey more than any other sport is just having all these great teams in one venue on 1 to 3 days and just allowing us to like hit them all at once.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point on the Tenny Cup and the Hingham Showcase, which they're not doing anymore, just because logistically it was a challenge. It came school vacation week, and the Tenny Cup, the position in the season is perfect for those teams to play the other teams, see where they fit 2 or 3 weeks into the season. And if you lose a couple of games, just it doesn't kill your season. Whereas the end of the season in Hingham, I mean, the way the power rankings are now, people that pay close attention to it, it doesn't hurt you that much, a loss here and there or a tie late. But I think the position of the Tenny Cup, not to compare one versus the other, but it makes life easier for you guys in the media, but it's also a terrific event from a fan standpoint, the coaches' standpoints, and certainly the families of the girls and the players themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that tournament was one we were just psyched to cover. We did a bunch of games from it. Obviously, I called some for you guys as well. Love that. It was just allowed me to like kind of know what these teams are like. And, you know, the cool thing is I usually am at games I'm either covering or broadcasting, but occasionally I'll just show up myself because it just helps with like preparing the section and knowing what we're doing. And just kind of like knowing like, okay, we should probably profile this kid or we should look at it that way. And so that's just why like there's so much value in attending all of these games, especially in the regular season, because it's not great from a media perspective when you're starting to understand a storyline in March in the tournament, because then you're late to it. So just being able to like see all these teams and go to all these games, and yeah, when they play in these great tournaments and you can kind of like figure them all out at once, it's huge from a media perspective. And yeah, hockey community is great for that.
So not to put you on a spot or anything, but we'd like to get, some of your ideas about what you've seen. Division II and Division I and girls are just so close, especially the top 6 or 8 teams in Division II, and you can get down to 12 or 13 in Division I this year. Note, Super 8 comes back in 2 years, we hope. But it's just gotten so much more competitive in addition to growing the game, broadly around so many new teams and better players. But even the co-op teams, the traditional co-op teams, that's accepted in girls sports because those teams are so good, they're so well coached, and they're so competitive. What do you see this year? I mean, last year Hingham was number 1 the whole year in Division I for the most part, and ended up winning in the Garden, though it was It was not a layup like some people thought it would be. But you got a team like Bishop Stang, who was in that final, who has come back so strong this year. And I think they're like 6th or 7th. They're so good, but they're 6th or 7th. There's almost parity from 1 to 12 in Division 1 from my perspective. And then Division 2, there's 3 or 4 teams fighting for that top spot.
Yeah, well, what's fascinating that I've noticed, and I feel like it all balances out in the end of the year, but like on the boys' side, it feels like a team that's at the top can lose a game and not get punished as much. When it feels like on the girls' side, especially early in the year, every team has such an excellent record, and an off night happens, or just injuries could cause it, and a team can drop so far really quickly. And again, it usually balances out at the end of the year, and I think that just has to say how many teams are at the top with similar records. Those tournaments like the Tenny Cup and like other showcases around the state usually help balance that out too. So it puts them against each other, but there's just so much talent at that level. And I've noticed like on the girls side, a lot of teams, like I'll see a result and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like it's a team that I knew was good, but maybe I thought the team that won was probably going to lose a close one, and they won by like 2 or 3 goals. There's an example the other night. I'm not really remembering it, but usually something in the Catholic Central League. So, like all those teams are so competitive and they can all beat each other, or the Patriot League. They can all beat each other pretty much. So I'll see those and those results. Like they make sense, but then they're like, wow, like I could see that being a tournament game and maybe an upset. So that kind of helps set it up. And yeah, the top teams at the Division 1 and Division 2 level, I would almost say are a wash. Like I don't think the divisions matter as much. I think that like Milton and Duxbury could beat anyone in Division 1, and vice versa. Like the top teams in Division 1 would be in the same spot in Division 2. And I think that's kind of rare in high school sports, because it feels like in every other sport, like maybe a team that's dominant at a lower division level would maybe be able to handle themselves at the Division 1 level. But in girls hockey, if you're elite in Division 2, you could probably win Division 1. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think going back years, there were years when Wellesley was Division 2, and people couldn't believe it. Like they would have been the best team in the state in 1 or 2 years. But I think just we're still on girls sports. We want to get girls hockey. We want to get to boys hockey too. But just one last thing on the girls. Coach Najarian brought up earlier strength of schedule, and Paul Moore too. Strength of schedule is going to be so much more important going forward. It is now, but you look at a team like Duxbury, they schedule as many D1, again, D1, D2. There's not that big a margin in girls, but he schedules everybody. And he's got a league schedule commitment, but he wants to play those D1 teams too. And you got a team like NDA that's an independent, and they have a strong schedule too, but teams want to play them, and maybe that hurts their strength of schedule a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back to my days in the MIAA when strength of schedule meant nothing. It was all about your wins and losses and your win percentage. And just the amount of times that like a number 1 seed would be a team that objectively was going to lose to the lowest seed, because the lowest seed was a team like the best example was always in D3 boys hockey. Abington was always one of the lowest seeds, always knocking out the top seed, because they were like a good strategic program going up against someone that really hadn't played anyone at that level yet. And it would usually be a close game, a tight turn. And it was just like, it almost just like wrecked the tournament because the number 1 seed's already out. And then like the third, like let's just say it was a 25 seeds playing, I guess it would kind of mess with the momentum. And now that it's strength of schedule, it feels like that team that maybe hasn't played that competition ends up as like an 8 or a 10 seed, and it's less of a shock if they lose. Yeah. And at the same time, the team that plays that elite schedule might be around the same and hosting a game. And it just makes it make a lot more sense, even if sometimes you look at the power rankings and you're like, how is that team ranked that highly and then this team isn't? But in the tournament, I feel like you benefit from the fact that they're ranked there. So I think there's a way to make it not look as odd at times with like a 5-win team hosting a playoff game. but at the same time, it's less of an issue than when those low seeds would knock out a top seed.
Yeah, I think this year on both the girls and boys side, there's not going to be a surprise if a 12 beats a 5 or whatever.
Totally.
Because I mean, the boys, we should go over and talk about the boys for a moment here. Because, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot and say who's a dark horse. That you do a column on that when the tournament pairings are made, and we'll wait for that. But, because there's so much good hockey still in the last 3 weeks of the regular season coming up on the girls' side. So I agree with you. I'm a big fan of the girls' game, the way it's played now and the way it's structured and the way it's coached, most importantly. It's a great group of coaches. And on the boys' side, there's a traditional great group of coaches there as well. And boys D1, everybody focuses on the higher divisions for the most part, but there's 4 divisions in this competition all the way down the line. We see mostly D1 and D2 boys games, where this year the top 2 teams in Division 2 could be, number 6 and number 8 in Division 1 at this point of the season. But CM has emerged at the top of the heap in D1 boys. But I was talking to somebody the other day that is a fan as the season goes on, and said, "Well, what's going on this year? Who's?" I said, teams in the power rankings now that are 2 through 9, 10, or 11 are going to be in 1-goal games and against each other. And by the way, teams there, CM's not unblemished. They got a couple of losses and a tie, but those came from teams that are probably in the top 5 or 6. But it's a wild year, I think. And
100%.
And it's a fun year. And getting down to those last 8, really anybody can win, I think, this year. You say that a lot, not you. People say that a lot every year, but some years there's a year when nobody's going to beat Pope, and there's a year when nobody's going to beat St. John's Prep. But in BC High, going back 6-7 years, was unbeatable for the most part. But this year CM's very good. They're very young. And are they vulnerable deeper in the season? They're very well coached. They're getting better. Their freshmen are like juniors, for sakes. They're definitely the team to beat right now from our perspective. But love to hear it from the Herald's perspective.
Yeah, so I saw Catholic Memorial's opener at the new Skip rink in Belmont, and that was a fun game to watch. And I immediately was like, okay, keep an eye on this team, because when I first looked, I saw all these younger kids. They had tons of underclassmen. And then I remembered, oh, wait, that probably means they have this elite talent that's going to continue to shuffle up the ranks and potentially enter other levels. So that is sometimes something, especially with the private schools, that you forget in the moment, and then you realize, oh, wait, yeah, that's probably a lot of high-end talent. But at the same time, that could make a team a little vulnerable in the postseason, although I don't see that happening with CM. I think they're going to have a pretty sustained run. They have their goalie returning from last year, and he's excellent. They have a lot of great talent, and I know they have the senior I talked to on that team was just such a great leader. So I can see that all working, and their juniors are basically seniors. As you said, their freshmen are basically juniors. They know what they're doing. They're a well-oiled machine, and they're very well coached, and they play a great schedule. So they're not going to have any surprises come up. I also think Pope Francis, haven't seen him this year, but I've watched him a few times, and they're always a contender. That whole Catholic conference. And then I saw Arlington and Reading this year, both great programs. That was a really fun game. I think, Arlington especially have just a lot of size that I feel like is kind of rare for high school hockey in this day and age. And that can be intimidating. Hingham, always a power. Saw them against Najarian. That could have gone either way. That game was overtime. So there's a lot of talent going around from both the publics and the privates. I could see if I couldn't even pick a team to win, because there's just so many options, as you mentioned. And it reminds me of the tournament 2 years ago when St. John's Prep and Winchester met at the Garden. Winchester was like a 10 or 11 seed that year, and I saw them in the Garden, and I was like, oh, this team is unbelievable. And then I know they had defeated Arlington Catholic, who I'd seen that year. They were awesome that year. Marshfield, who lost to Arlington Catholic in the quarterfinal, was awesome that year. And that's what this year's in the Division I level especially is really reminding me of, is just the championship could be 2 double-digit seeds and it wouldn't completely shock me. It would surprise me, but it could happen because it's all going to be about whose goalie's playing well, whose team's balanced out at the time, and who's injury free. And it's a long season. There's a couple intense weeks ahead, but it could go anyway. When maybe Division II, there's a lot of talent at the top there too. And I think the top Division II teams could beat the top Division I teams, as you see from the Ed Burns tournament. 3 Division IV out of 4, 3 Division II out of 4 teams. That kind of shows that. So a lot of depth at those 2 divisions.
Yeah, as you said, Jack, there are some big games left to play, and then there's some end of the season, annual rivals that are more tune-up games for the tournament. Not to get anybody overconfident on those teams, but there's a lot of hockey left to be played, and certainly it looks like it's going to be a great tournament in all 6 divisions this year.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, one of my favorite games I covered this year on the boys' side was Winthrop versus Dover Sherborne, which is 2 Division IV. The last 2 Division IV winners was kind of why we did it, and that was great hockey. Division IV's got a lot of talent, especially at the top, and you get a lot of non-Eastern Mass representation in that level, so that's always cool. And then Division III, I mean, Nauset, I'm not shocked they're as good as they are again, but a little bit surprised that they're this dominant again, especially with losing a player like Poulin, who's kind of, one of those guys your program gets once. And instead, they've had so many kids step up. And at the same time, so many other great programs in Division III, like Epsiode, like so many others. Hanover at Division III, they're a powerhouse every year, every year, dating back to my time. And it could go a lot of different ways at all 4 levels, but I would say it'll probably D2, D3, D4 be a little easier to project than D1. And then on the girls' side, good luck predicting either of those because there's so many teams that could be there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, and maybe we'll do this again tournament time.
Absolutely.
Great to see you around the rinks. And again, congrats on your role at the Herald, and keep up the great work.
Thanks for having me on. Absolutely love to see you guys around. And yeah, we're having a blast. Love winter. It's a great time.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Paul. Great to see you, Jack. And want to thank our guests earlier in the show, Dan Najarian, head coach at Duxbury High School, Paul Moore from Falmouth High School, and then Gary Wright, hockey maven. We're just going to capture it in a broad way. And so a really diverse show today. We covered a lot of ground, and want to thank you for tuning in. Also would like to just inform you, Always On Marketing is available, strategic marketing services that we can provide. We're more than just a live stream broadcast service organization. We love bringing the broadcasts on My Hockey Live and Be Big Live. And but we also have great marketing resources. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can contact me directly, David Snow, dsnow at alwaysonmediagroup.com. The winter sports tournament is coming up. We've talked about it with a number of these guests today. It's an exciting time. If you'd like to get involved in sponsoring My Hockey Live's coverage of the winter sports tournaments, we whether it's hockey, basketball, you name it, we'll be there with mics and cameras, and we come at it in a professional manner, and we look forward to getting your support of the winter sports tournaments. Get in touch with me on that as well. So I'll mention it one more time, dsnow at alwaysonmediagroup.com. Want to thank Paul McNamara and Colin Barkan for their work on episode number 4. We certainly grooved a lot in today, and we look forward to having you with us our next time. And if you'd like to get involved in the podcast or have any comments or suggestions, again, my email address, dsnow at alwaysonmediagroup.com. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.